Dr. Limodio, thank you so much for coming to speak with us today. We have a few questions for our students. So the first question is, what is the relationship between finance and terrorist attacks in Pakistan? Does finance have a significant impact on whether or not terrorist attacks occur?
This is a very good question. Indeed, this is the object of this study. We want to understand how finance and whether finance has an effect on terrorist attacks. And in studying that, we are exploiting a specific setting, specific institutional context. What the findings of my research show that the timing and the location of finance have an effect on the timing and the location of the attacks. This is important because it gives evidence that terrorist groups are financially constrained, and hence fighting terrorist financing can actually lower attacks and casualties.
Thank you. How do you explain the economic concepts of supply and demand in terms of terrorist attacks? What factors influence this supply and demand in Pakistan?
So, of course, what we are trying to do is to simplify a very complex dynamic. And the way that I do it in this paper is by separating, thinking of the supply of terrorism as the role of terrorist organizations in promoting their activities through attacks. And by demand, I'm really thinking of those conditions in a town, in a city, that can have an effect on what I call the demand of terrorism, in particular policing or military activity. I do my best in separating these two, and I can show you in the paper that when funding flows to terrorist groups, they increase their local outreach by attacking more.
What are possible lessons policymakers could take from your research?
There are probably three. The first one would state that cutting the link between financing and terrorism can actually lower casualties and attacks. The second is that you would be particularly powerful in cutting this. You would particularly want to cut this link in periods of strong recruitment by terrorist groups. And the final is about the oversight of charities. By controlling charities more effectively, we may actually limit the transformation of charitable donations into terrorist financing and in attacks.